An American citizen and former UN official wrongfully held in Iran for more than 6.5 years has been allowed to travel abroad today to seek medical treatment. His son has been released from prison on a temporary furlough, but still cannot leave Iran. Amna Nawaz has the story.
Judy, 85-year-old Baqir Namazi is one of 4 Iranian Americans who've been detained by Iran or barred from leaving the country, including his son, Siamak Namazi, who's been held in prison since 2015. Both father and son had been sentenced to what U.S. and UN officials call baseless espionage charges. Baqir Namazi traveled to Oman today and recently landed in Abu Dhabi, where he will undergo surgery. Jared Genser is a human rights attorney and pro bono counsel for the Namazi family, and he joins me now. Jared, welcome to the NewsHour. Thank you for joining us. Baqir has been in Iranian custody since 2016. This surgery he'll get could save his life. Have you talked to him today? How is he doing?
Well, I spoke to him yesterday. He's been traveling today. It's been a long ordeal to get from Tehran to UAE, as you can imagine, especially when you're talking about the recovery of an American hostage. But I spoke to him yesterday and the day before. I mean, he is, on the one hand, excited and grateful for the fact that so many people, the UN, the United States, Oman, the UAE, have all come together to get him out. But at the same time, this is a very bittersweet day because his son, Siamak Namazi, remains a hostage in Iran. Although he's out on a 1-week renewable furlough, he spent 7 years and counting and could be sent back to jail at any time.
What can you tell us, Jared, about the negotiations that went into this? I mean, he's been there since 2016, held and detained, right? His sentence was commuted in 2020, but he hasn't been allowed to leave. Why now?
Well, I think that the Iranians must have come to believe that given the next major surgery he needs to have, which is to unblock one of the main arteries to his brain, that it was a great risk to keep him in Iran, where he could die on the operating table. The reality is that he has been subjected to a totally arbitrary travel ban for more than 2 years. Even under Iranian law, there was no justification for keeping him in Iran. Yet they still hope to trade him for something of value, and I think that they finally let him go, realizing that there was really nothing left except for downside for them if they tried to keep him, and if something went wrong at the operation.
So as you mentioned, one of his sons, Siamak, has been imprisoned for 7 years, is now out on a temporary furlough. But what can you tell us about him and how he's doing, and whether this means it's a step towards his release?
Yeah, I mean, well, look, the bottom line is, having worked on behalf of the Namazis for years myself, today can be nothing other than a good day. It's a bittersweet day because Siamak, is still behind. Our hope is that this humanitarian gesture by Iran of both lifting the travel ban on Baqir Namazi and letting him go, and letting Siamak out on a 1-week furlough, which hopefully will be renewed, is a clear sign to the United States and will be taken as such, as a reason to finally come to a negotiated settlement on all of the outstanding hostage cases, because there are, of course, 2 other American hostages in Iran as well, and all of them need to come home to their families, and their nightmare needs to be brought to an end.
Does he have to go back to Iran after the surgery, or does this mean he's free?
No, he's free, and he was free as of 2020. And this was the bizarre thing about what the government of Iran had been doing in his case. They themselves commuted his sentence to time served. Their own courts did. And yet, they refused to give him a passport to be able to leave the country.
You mentioned the other Americans who are held there. Imad Shargi and Morad Tabaz remain detained in Iran. We've been in touch with the family of Imad Shargi. They sent us this statement today, saying in part that we wish the U.S. could have secured Imad's freedom as well. Instead, he remains an innocent American wrongfully imprisoned in Iran. We urge the U.S. government to do everything it can to bring him home to us. Jared, you have worked for years on these kinds of cases. Hundreds of people have been freed because of your work. Do you believe the U.S. government is doing everything it can?
Right now, I think the answer to that question is yes. Having represented the Namazis myself since November of 2016, there have been long periods of time where the answer was no. But we need a renewed sense of urgency to come to a final deal and to resolve this outstanding group of cases. And ultimately, we also need to get to the broader question of how does the United States, as a country, deal with these kinds of situations around the world, because our policies have been consistently inconsistent. We don't negotiate with terrorists except when we do. We don't pay ransom except when we do, right? And we need a multilateral approach to this problem, because it is not just an American problem. There are hostages that Iran has from many other countries around the world, and many other countries in the world take foreigners hostage as a matter of state practice.
Jared, does this moment in Iran, though, present a window for negotiations in some way? The regime is under pressure, right? They're facing these protests after the death of Mahsa Amini. They're trying to follow through on the nuclear deal talks. There's a pressure there. Is that a window of opportunity for the U.S.?
I think it definitely is, and I'm more hopeful today than I've been really at all over the some 6 years that I've been involved in these cases. Not only because Bahar is free, but they didn't have to let Siamak out on a furlough, even though he had a right to a furlough, having served half of his sentence of 5 years, and he's been in for 7. They didn't have to let him out on the furlough, and the fact that he did alongside letting his father leave says to me that they're trying to send a pretty clear signal, which I hope the U.S. will take up immediately, and I believe that the U.S. is in fact taking up immediately. And so I am hopeful that we can finally resolve all these outstanding cases and turn back to the broader policy question of how do we stop hostages being taken from the United States around the world as a broader question.
That is Jared Genser, human rights attorney and pro bono counsel for the Namazi family, as Baker Namazi is allowed to leave Iran for the first time in 6 years. Jared, thank you for your time.
Thank you.